Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is a 101autism.com deep dive.
Yeah, welcome.
And today we are really plunging into a topic that's, well, incredibly relevant for understanding and navigating the world, especially for many adults.
Definitely.
We're talking about sensory supports, things like weighted blankets, fidgets, chewables, and just a whole lot more.
Absolutely. We've gathered quite a bit of material for this one. We're looking at various articles, some research papers, our own notes, and even info from places that actually sell these kinds of tools.
Yeah, the goal is to really unpack what sensory tools are and, maybe more importantly, what they actually mean for adults.
Our mission today is, well, pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights from all this stuff.
Right. We're aiming to really understand why sensory input is so critical for adults, look at the huge variety of tools out there, and, figure out how they can actually be woven into daily life, practically.
Exactly. It's about getting past the idea that sensory needs are just for kids and really gaining a deeper understanding of how supporting our senses can actually boost well-being, at any age.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The sources we looked at make it super clear right away. Sensory needs, sensory challenges. They are definitely not just a childhood thing.
Not at all. Adults experience them too, and sometimes pretty intensely.
That's right. And a core idea that keeps coming up in the material is sensory overload.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And this isn't just feeling a bit frazzled. It's like your brain is genuinely struggling, trying to process this constant flood of sensory information coming in from, well, everywhere.
Right. And when that processing kind of breaks down, it can lead to real discomfort, stress, even feeling like you need to shut down.
And it's not just the classic five senses we all learned about: touch, sight, hearing, smell, taste.
No, the sources consistently bring up that there are actually 8 senses that are critical to how we experience the world.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, to really get the sensory landscape, especially for adults, we need to include movement, that's the vestibular sense,
Sure.
body awareness, proprioception, basically knowing where your body parts are without looking,
Right.
and crucially, interoception.
Interoception. Tell me more about that one.
So interoception is your sense of what's going on inside your body. Physiological conditions,
Like,
like feeling hungry or thirsty, needing the bathroom, even sensing your own heartbeat. If you have trouble processing those internal signals, it can really impact your emotional regulation, self-care, everything.
wow, okay. Connecting those internal feelings to sensory processing, that adds a whole different dimension, doesn't it?
It really does.
So, given this wider view of the senses and this risk of overload, why do adults, specifically, benefit so much from using sensory tools? What do the sources say?
Well, they point to quite a few powerful reasons. I mean, at the most basic level, these tools help manage that overwhelming input we were just talking about. But they go deeper than that. They can actually promote emotional regulation. They sort of help your autonomic nervous system shift gears, moving from a stressed fight or flight state towards a calmer one.
Like hitting a reset button.
Kind of, yeah. Giving your nervous system a bit of a manual override. And this, in turn, can seriously improve focus and reduce feelings of anxiety and stress.
And the sources also made a point of saying that understanding and experiencing sensory differences isn't just like a general wellness concept. It's actually part of the diagnostic criteria for both autism spectrum disorder and ADHD.
Absolutely. Sensory reactivity, how you react to sensory input, it's a core feature for both. But, the sources also highlight that sensory differences exist on a spectrum. They affect lots of people, diagnosis or not.
So the tools aren't just for people with specific diagnoses.
Not at all. The tools and strategies we're talking about today can be helpful for, well, pretty much anyone navigating a world that often feels too loud or too bright or just too much sometimes.
Okay, this is where, for me, it got really interesting and personal, and maybe the most crucial takeaway from everything we read.
What's that?
The sources just kept hammering home how important it is to understand your own unique sensory profile.
Yes. That self-awareness piece is absolutely foundational.
It's about figuring out, okay, what specific sensations bring me comfort? What things, what environments, what inputs trigger that feeling of overwhelm for me?
Exactly. And what activities or objects genuinely soothe my system? Identifying those personal preferences, triggers, and soothers isn't just, helpful information. It's fundamental if you want to manage sensory issues effectively.
One source used the term sensory safety, and that really stuck
Oh,
with
I
me.
like that. Sensory safety. It's about creating conditions where you feel safe and regulated in your own sensory world.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. You could have, I don't know, a room full of sensory tools, but if you don't know which ones actually work for your specific nervous system.
They won't do much good. Precisely. And figuring that out, that's often a process, a bit of trial and error, exploration.
All right, let's dive into the toolkit itself then, because the sources laid out a fantastic, almost overwhelming range of sensory supports available for adults.
They really did. They often group them by the kind of sensory input they mainly provide.
So, starting with maybe the most obvious category, the one people think of first.
Probably fidget and tactile toys, yeah.
We've all seen fidget spinners, right?
Yeah.
But the actual range is huge. These tools mostly engage touch and movement, basically keeping your hands busy.
And the benefits they list are pretty significant. They can help relieve stress. They can improve focus sometimes by giving your brain just enough other input to stay anchored.
Mm-hmm.
They can help manage conditions like ADHD and autism by providing an outlet for that excess energy or restlessness. And sometimes they just redirect nervous energy away from maybe less helpful habits like nail biting or leg bouncing.
The examples were great, way beyond just spinners. There are cubes like the Buomo Infinity Cube or that smooth, silent Ono roller that some of the store sites mentioned.
Oh, yeah, the silent ones are key for some settings.
Definitely. Stress balls too, but not just plain ones. They come in different textures, some change color when you squeeze them, like ones from Yo-Ya Toys, Tangle Toys for that continuous movement.
Sensory rings and brushes, too, for different kinds of tactile input. And putty, or kinetic sand. That moldable resistance is great. Specs Crag's magnetic putty sounded interesting, adding that magnetic element. And Crazy Aaron's thinking putty is sort of a classic.
And even simple things like worry stones, often made of textured silicone, just something discreet to hold and rub.
The key takeaway there, I think, is the variety. It exists because different people need different kinds of input. Some need to squeeze hard, some need smooth rolling, some need interesting textures, some need that constant fluid motion like a Tangle provides.
Makes sense. Okay, moving on from hands. The sources also highlighted that a lot of adults actually need or benefit from oral input for calming or regulation, maybe even stimulation.
Right, this is where oral or gustatory sensory items come in.
Things like chewable pendants or necklaces. They're usually made of food-grade silicone
Yeah.
and designed to be pretty discreet, right?
Socially acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. And there are other things too, like specific sensory teethers or just chews designed for adults.
Mm-hmm.
But one source, it was an online discussion we found, brought up a really important point about dental safety.
Ah, right. With the chewing.
Yeah. The general feeling in that discussion was that because the silicone is usually pretty soft and flexible, it probably won't damage teeth for most people. However, and this is important, you definitely need to be cautious if you have braces.
Good point.
And it's always smart to check with your dentist if you're using chewables a lot or if you have any concerns at all.
Did they mention anything else?
Well, that same discussion also raised the question about potential jaw pain. If you're chewing constantly or really intensely, that's something to be aware of.
Yeah. And the sources also noted that sometimes, that need for oral input can be met, at least partly, by other things. Chewing crunchy foods, maybe, or sucking on hard candies. It depends on the type of oral engagement someone needs.
Gotcha. Okay, next up is a big one in adult sensory support. Deep pressure and weighted items.
Yes, deep touch pressure, or DTP. The sources define it as tactile input touch, but delivered through firm holding, hugging, squeezing, or compression. It's not light touch, it's that strong, grounding kind of pressure.
And the physiological benefits of DTP, according to the research, seem pretty significant.
They really do. It seems to have this profound calming effect. It helps reduce anxiety. It can improve body awareness, that proprioceptive sense in it. Again, it can actually decrease the stress hormone cortisol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it might even encourage the release of dopamine, which is linked to pleasure and reward. It's like giving your whole nervous system a firm, reassuring hug.
That's a great way to put it. And Dr. Temple Grandin often comes up here, right?
Yes, her work, especially developing her squeeze machine, was really pioneering. It was an early, scientifically looked at example of using DTP. It helped her manage her sensory sensitivities, especially difficulty with being touched, and really reduced her anxiety.
So weighted blankets are probably the most common DTP tool people know about now.
Definitely. They provide that comforting, evenly distributed pressure over the body. A research study we looked at found significant subjective benefits, people reporting they could fall asleep better, sleep through the night more, feel more relaxed during the day when using them.
And there's that general guideline for weight, right? Something like 10% of your body weight.
Yeah, roughly 10% of body weight, maybe plus an extra pound or so. That's the usual starting point.
Now, the research, while it sounds good for sleep and feeling calm, it had some nuances, didn't it? Especially about daily activities.
It did. So while people in studies use them a lot, one study found 78% use theirs every single night and clearly like them for sleep and winding down or waking up. Yeah. The reported improvement in actually performing tasks like at work or school was much less common. Only about 16.5% of participants in one study reported that kind of improvement.
Interesting. So the takeaway is the science seems to back them up well for sleep and relaxation, and people feel calmer using them, which is huge.
Absolutely huge.
But maybe don't expect it to directly make you better at your job or studies based on the current objective research anyway.
Yeah.
We need more data there.
Exactly. The subjective benefit for sleep and anxiety is incredibly valuable on its own, but it's good to know what the research currently supports strongly and where it's still developing.
So beyond blankets, the sources also talked about weighted clothing and wraps.
Right. These offer similar deep pressure benefits, but they're designed so you can wear them while you're out and about or just moving around the house.
What kinds of things?
We saw examples like weighted hoodies, jackets, vests or waistcoats, lap pads, neck wraps, even weighted caps.
Weighted lap pads seem popular, like portable mini blankets.
Exactly. Good for using at a desk or on the couch, things like that. And weighted animals were mentioned too as another option, a bit more cuddly maybe.
Okay, what about movement? The vestibular and proprioceptive systems.
Yep. Movement-based tools. These help with balance, coordination, that body awareness sense. Things like therapy balls, those peanut-shaped balls, balance pods you stand on, wobble cushions for chairs.
Things that make you engage your muscles to stay stable.
Pretty much, yeah. They provide unstable surfaces or require active engagement, which feeds input to those senses.
But it's not just special equipment, right?
No, absolutely not. The sources emphasize that supporting movement needs can be much simpler. Just sitting in a rocking chair provides great vestibular input, using a hammock, a swing, even mini trampoline.
Yep.
And just regular physical activity, things like jogging, cycling, dancing, are all powerful ways to get proprioceptive and vestibular input. It's about being intentional with movement.
The sources also briefly touch on some other sensory categories, too.
Yeah, visually, things like those liquid motion bubblers, or kaleidoscopes, soft night lights, mood lighting. Stuff that provides calming visual stimulation without being overwhelming like a bright screen might be.
And for hearing, auditory input.
Sound machines are big here. White noise, brown noise, nature sounds, they can help block out distracting sounds, or just create a consistent calming backdrop for focus or sleep.
Or the opposite, blocking sound out.
Exactly. Music therapy instruments were mentioned, but also, crucially, good quality ear defenders or earplugs. Essential tools for managing noise sensitivity or just creating quiet when you need it.
And lastly, smell, olfactory.
Briefly, yeah. Things like aromatherapy dough combining scent and tactile scented candles used safely, of course, or diffusers. They can offer calming effects through smell.
But be careful with scents, right?
Absolutely. The sources wisely caution against anything too strong or potentially triggering for you or others around you. It's about finding gentle, soothing scents that work for you personally.
Wow. Okay. That is a huge range of tools covering so many senses. So the next obvious question the sources helped answer is, how do you actually use all this? How do you weave these ideas into your everyday life?
Yeah, and the material gives some really practical ways to do that. Many of them you can do easily at home, low risk, low cost.
Like those DTP methods you could do without buying anything specific?
Exactly. That section was great. Simple things, but effective, like getting proper bear hugs if you have someone willing.
Yeah.
Or using firm wrapping techniques with blankets or cushions, like the burrito or sandwich method. Sitting in a beanbag chair gives great all-over pressure.
Okay.
Engaging in rough and tumble play again with a willing partner, using massage, even self-massage with hands, foam rollers, or those spiky balls, deep vibration from certain massagers, even just climbing under sofa cushions.
Hiding under the cushions.
Right. Or doing targeted joint compressions. The main point is that DTP isn't just about the tools. It's about applying that firm, calming pressure intentionally.
And creating a sensory-friendly environment came up a lot too, or a dedicated sensory space.
Yes, this is all about customizing your surroundings. using sensory elements, tweaking the lighting, choosing comfortable textures, managing sounds, maybe using calming scents to basically promote relaxation and regulation in your own space.
And it doesn't have to be a whole separate room, right?
Not at all. It can absolutely be about making adjustments within the spaces you already have, like creating a calming corner in your living room, or really optimizing your bedroom for sensory comfort.
And for adults with autism specifically, the source is stressed thinking about all 8 senses.
Yeah, that was a key point. Not just the main 5. Remembering to integrate elements that support the vestibular sense, proprioception, and interoception is really important for creating truly supportive spaces for autistic adults.
And it's more than just the physical space, isn't it? It's about actively using tools and strategies in your daily routines.
Totally. Like proactively putting on noise-canceling headphones before you walk into a noisy supermarket. Or keeping a specific fidget toy in your pocket for meetings or situations that make you anxious. Having a calming visual nearby when you need to focus at your desk. It's about building these supports into the rhythm of your day. Managing input, maintaining that emotional equilibrium.
The idea of sensory rest and recharge also felt really vital, or sensory detox.
Oh, absolutely crucial. This means taking intentional breaks from environments that are highly stimulating.
So after a busy, noisy event,
You consciously seek out quiet downtime afterwards. It's not being lazy, it's allowing your nervous system to actually recalibrate. It's essential for preventing sensory burnout in the long run.
and this links into general self-care too, right? Like breathing exercises.
Definitely. The sources connect it all. Simple practices like deep breathing, gentle stretching, engaging in calming hobbies. These all support your overall capacity to manage sensory input.
Now, if these sensory challenges are really impacting someone's life significantly,
That's where occupational therapists, OTs, often come in. The sources mention their role in assessing sensory needs and guiding people, often using approaches like sensory integration therapy.
and while OTs can do specific DTP techniques, we mentioned that many methods can be tried at home.
Yeah, once you understand the basic principles and, again, figure out what works for you through safe exploration.
The sources also briefly mentioned some newer things, like VR.
Just a quick mention, yeah. Virtual reality gaming is apparently being explored in some OT settings for teaching skills in a controlled sensory environment. Things like practicing for driving or job interviews. Interesting stuff.
And for just figuring things out and connecting with others.
Self-assessment tools can be a starting point. And online forums, communities on places like Reddit or local support groups can be fantastic resources. Sharing experiences, discovering new strategies with people who just get it.
Absolutely. And as we mentioned, this deep dive is from 101autism.com.
Right. And the sources themselves pointed out that sites like 101autism.com offer really valuable guides and resources on exactly these kinds of topics.
Definitely worth checking out.
Mm.
Exploring related content there, like understanding the difference between autism and sensory processing disorder, perhaps.
Yeah, or navigating transitions, which can often be very sensory-heavy experiences. Looking into those articles on 101autism.com can give you even more context and tools for your own sensory journey.
Okay, so wrapping things up, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive?
Well, I think the overarching message is really clear. Sensory support is incredibly valuable and, frankly, necessary for many adults across the whole sensory spectrum.
Yeah.
And the wide variety of tools and techniques we've talked about offer real, concrete, actionable ways to support your regulation, improve focus, and just generally enhance your well-being.
We've seen the toolkit is massive. From wearable things like weighted vests, to changing your home environment, to simple personal techniques you can do anywhere.
But maybe the single most important step, the one the sources kept coming back to, is that journey of understanding your own unique sensory profile.
That self-awareness piece again.
Exactly. Knowing your personal preferences, your triggers, what actually soothes you, that's the most powerful tool you have. It's how you find what truly works.
It really is. So maybe here's something for you, the listener, to think about as you go about your week building on all this.
Yeah.
How can you take just one small step this week to better understand or support your own sensory needs? Maybe it's trying out a simple fidget toy you thought wasn't for adults.
Or maybe trying a calming scent in your workspace, like we mentioned.
Or just scheduling, say, 15 minutes of actual quiet sensory rest today, making it intentional.
Because that journey of sensory self-discovery, it's ongoing, isn't it? And even making those small intentional adjustments based on what you learn about yourself can make a really significant difference in how comfortably and effectively you move through your world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive from 101autism.com.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We definitely encourage you to visit the site, 101autism.com, for more resources and insights into these topics and a whole lot more.